Hello, Mr. Price here, and this is your homework on the mixed algebra questions. You've got 6 stages to this, and this has started to consolidate all of your knowledge on orders of operations and doing introductions to algebra. Let's start off with section 1. Okay, so we are asked to find 3 add 4 multiplied by 2. Okay, and should start to look a bit like an inverse pyramid with no equal signs in there. So, look for any brackets, there aren't any. I look for any powers, there aren't any. I don't look for any division or multiplication, and I see I've got a multiplication sum, so I do this first. 4 times 2 becomes 8, and I bring down everything I haven't touched yet. Okay, so I bring down the 3, I bring down the plus. I don't touch the 4 because that combines with the multiplied by 2 to give 8. Okay, I now do 3 plus 8, which gives me 11. And that's the first question. Let's look at number 2. We are being asked to find 5 subtract bracket 1 multiplied by 2 close bracket multiplied by 2. Okay, first things first, I look for brackets and I solve them. So inside a bracket here, I've got 1 times 2. So that becomes 2, and everything else comes down. So I've got a 5, subtract, and a times 2. I've done my brackets, there aren't any powers. I've now got a multiplication or division here, so this bit comes next. So 2 multiplied by 2, that becomes 4, and the 5 subtract comes down. And notice how I'm keeping everything in line. It's very important that we do that. Okay, and I don't try and rearrange the sum. I'm now left with 5 subtract 4, that gives me 1. Okay, question 3. I have 3 add 4 squared multiplied by 9 divided by 3. Okay, I look for brackets, I don't have any. I look for powers, I have a 4 to the power of 2, so I do that bit first. 4 multiplied by itself is 16. Don't be tempted to say 8, it's not 4 times 2, it's 4 multiplied by itself, 16. I bring down everything else that I haven't touched yet. Okay, I've done my powers, there aren't any brackets. I now do multiplication or division in any order. Okay, so here I will choose to do the division first, although you can quite happily multiply this first as well. So 9 divided by 3, that becomes 3. I bring down everything that I haven't touched yet. I'm left with 3 add 16 multiplied by 3. Okay, I'm now going to do 16 multiplied by 3. Now if you need to, you can do a very quick sum on the side here to help you. 6 times 3 or 3 times 6 is 18. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3 plus the 1 is 4. So that is 48. Bring down the 3 and the plus sign. I've now got 3 plus 48, which brings me 51. Okay. Finally, question 4. I'm being asked for 2 plus 4 multiplied by 10 all divided by 2. Now, you might not be used to this symbol. It looks like a fraction, and it is a fraction, but it also acts as a divide sign, and that means everything on the top is divided by 2. So there's invisible brackets, if you like, around here, because it wants everything on the top to be done first before we divide. Now, there is something else you can do with this, but we're not going to go into too much detail with that. That comes later on in the course. Okay, for now, we'll do the top line. Now, inside the bracket, they had their own unique rules of operations. So inside the bracket, I'll do any powers, then any multiplication, division, and any addition and subtraction. So inside the bracket, I'm going to do 4 times 10, which gives me 40. I copy down the 2 and the plus, and the divide all by 2. I've now got, and put in the brackets as well if you want to. I can now do 2 plus 40. That gives me 42. And I'll divide that by 2. I'm now left with 42 divided by 2, which gives me 21. And that's my final answer. And that is all of section 1. Okay, section 2. I'm simplifying expressions. Okay, question 1 is asking me for a plus b minus a plus b. Okay, if you like, we can use colours to help us. I'm going to start with the first thing and circle anything which is also an a. So I've got a positive a and a negative a. There's no other a's. So a plus a is 2 lots of a. Take off an a is 1 lot of a. I'm just going to write it as a. You do not need to put the 1 in there. In a different colour, we'll look at the b's. So we've got a positive b and a positive b. So you've got a b plus a b. That's plus 2 lots of b. And that's question 1. Question 2. We have 4a minus 2b plus 3a plus 7b. Same thing again. I'll start with the first thing that I come to, the first term, and that's involving a's. So I've got a 4a. I'll look for any other a's. No. Yes. No. So I've got 4a plus 3a is 7a. I now look at the next thing. I've got a negative 2b and I add 7b. That will give me positive 5b. Question 3. I've got 3ab plus 5a plus 2ab plus 3b minus 2a. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to come across is an AB. I've got 3 ABs. Okay, that's not an AB. That's an AB. That's not an AB. That's not an AB. So 3AB plus 2AB is 5AB. I've then got a plus 5A. That's not an A. That's an A. 5A take off 2A is 3a. And then finally, in a different colour, I'm left with just 3b, which doesn't combine with anything, so that stays as it is. Question 4. 6a squared minus 5a plus 2a plus a squared minus 10. Let's follow the drill. 6a squared, that's not an a squared, that's not an a squared, that's an a squared, that's not an a squared. 6a squared plus an a squared is 7a squared. Minus 5a, that's an a. This is where you need to be a little bit careful. So if you start at negative 5 and you go up by 2 towards 0, you've got negative 5a, negative 4a, negative 3a. So that's negative 3a. That might cause some of you some issues. Very quickly, I'm going to do a number line to show you what's happened there. So there's negative 5, there's negative 4, there's negative 3, there's negative 2, there's negative 1, there's 0. If you imagine a temperature scale, you've started here at negative 5, you've added 2, so you've gone up by 2, so you go up to negative. Okay, and then the final one we're left with is a minus 10. There's nothing to combine with that, so that stays as it is, minus 10. Last question. We have 9EF plus 3FE minus 2EF plus 6FE, all divided by 2. Now, there's a trick to this one. I've spotted that some of my terms don't have the letters in alphabetical order. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this so the terms are in alphabetical order. So 9EF plus 3EF minus 2EF plus 6EF. Remember, it doesn't matter what order you do multiplication in, so I can change the order of those letters. All divided by 2. So, that's an EF, that's an EF, that's an EF, and that's an EF. So I'm going to combine those first. I've got 9EF plus 3EF. That brings me to 12EF. I take off 2EF. I'm now at 10EF. And I add 6. So I'm at 16EF. So I've run out of space here, so I'm going to do it up here. So that gives me to 16EF divided by 2. Okay. Now here's where you need to be a little bit careful. We haven't really done this in too much detail, but if you've got 16 EFs and you halve them, you're going to have 8 EF in total. Okay, so basically you've got 2 piles with 8 EFs in both. So you've shared your 16 EFs between 2 piles, so it's 8 EF. Okay, well done if you got a lot of those correct. Section 3, expanding brackets. We have 6, bracket b plus 5. Now here, we're not looking for any numerical answers, we're looking for another way we can write this. To do that, you multiply everything in the bracket by 6. Keyword multiply. So 6 multiplied by b is 6b. 6 multiplied by positive 5 is positive 30. Question 2. 2 bracket c minus 4 close bracket. 2 times c is 2c. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Number 3. D bracket 2d minus 3. Okay, there's an invisible 1 next to the d, so you multiply the numbers first and then the letters. 1 times 2 is 2. D times d is d squared. You've multiplied d by itself. And then d multiplied by negative 3 is negative 3d. Question 4. 4e bracket 5e plus 2. Multiply the number first. 4 times 5, 20. E times e, e squared. 4e multiplied by positive 2 is positive 8e. And finally number 5. This one's a trickier one. 3f bracket 2f cubed minus f squared plus 5f plus 2 close bracket. Okay, I'll multiply the number first. 3 times 2 is 6. F times f cubed, so that means f times f times f. So if you multiply another f, you'll be multiplying it 4 times. So that's f multiplied by itself 4 times. You've then got 3f multiplied by negative f squared. So multiply the number first. There's a invisible 1 next to here. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. F times f squared, that's f multiplied by itself 3 times. That will be f cubed. Okay. 3f multiplied by 5f. 3 times 5 is positive 15. F times f is f squared. And finally 3f times 2. 3 times 2 is positive 6. F times no letter, so f multiplied by 2 is just one lot of f. And that's your final answer. Okay, finally, section 4. Now, these ones can be a little bit tricky. You've got 2a plus 4. Factorising means putting it into brackets. So basically the opposite of what you've done for these. So, I'm looking for something that goes into every single term. Okay, so we're looking for something that goes into the red term and something that goes into the green term. Now, let's look at the numbers. I'm looking for a number that goes into 2 and 4. Now, I know 2 goes into 2 and 4, so that's going to go outside the bracket, and I can't see anything else that goes into them. Okay, and now I think, what do I want to multiply 2 by to make it 2a? The answer there is a, because 2 times a is 2a. I now want to think, what do I want to multiply 2 by to make it 4? The answer is positive 2. And you can check, 2 times 2 is positive 4. That works. Number 2, 6a plus 9. So we're looking for something that goes into the green term and the red term. So I know that 3 goes into 6 and 9. So I'm going to take a 3 to the outside. And I think, what do I want to multiply 3 by to make it 6a? Now, I know to get from 3 to 6, I need to multiply it by 2. And to get the a, I need to multiply it by an a as well. So 3 times 2a is 6a. And I need to multiply 3 by something to make it 9, or positive 9. The answer is positive 3. 3 times positive 3 is positive 9. Close the bracket. Number 3, 8b squared plus 6b. Let's look at the numbers. I'm looking for something that goes into 8 and 6. The answer is 2. But I can also see that I've got something that goes into b squared and b. And that is a letter b. So I can also take a b outside the bracket as well. Open up the bracket. So 2b multiplied by something gives me 8b. So 2 times something gives me 8. The answer is 4. B multiplied by something gives me b squared. The answer is b. Okay, 2 times something gives me positive 6. The answer there is plus 3. B times something gives me b. I've already got my b there, so that's absolutely fine. If you check, 2b times positive 3 gives you 6b. That's correct. Last one, number 4. 21ab plus 49a. So let's look at the numbers first. Something goes into 21 and 49. The answer there is 7. And it's something that goes into AB and A. Now this one's slightly trickier. Because I got an A in both terms, I can take out an A outside the bracket as well. Because A goes into AB and it goes into A. Open up the bracket. What do you want to multiply 7a to make it 21ab? So 7 times something gives you 21. The answer is 3. A multiplied by something gives you AB. Need a B in there, so that A times B is AB. 7 times something gives you 49. Okay, and if you have a little think, you'll come to the conclusion that that is 7. So 7, and then A multiplied by something gives you A. You don't need anything else because you've already got the A there. Close bracket. And that is all the questions done. Well done if you attempted all of those questions. Make sure you have your green pen learning response in for all of those. Thank you.